Listen carefully because what I'm about to say will challenge the way society has trained you to see attraction. We've been conditioned to believe that desire follows a narrow script: younger woman, older man, predictable power dynamics, predictable endings. But real psychology doesn't care about social comfort. Real attraction doesn't ask for permission. And when a man and an older woman feel drawn to each other, it isn't accidental, and it certainly isn't shallow. It's layered, unconscious, deeply emotional, and far more intense than most people are willing to admit. The first and most powerful sign of mutual attraction is psychological safety, not excitement, not flirting, safety. A man feels unusually calm around her even when his heart is racing. He doesn't feel the need to perform masculinity or prove his worth. He can be uncertain, curious, even vulnerable. And instead of feeling exposed, he feels held. An older woman, on the other hand, feels mentally respected. She's not being rushed, chased, or reduced to her appearance. She feels seen. When both people experience safety at the same time, attraction deepens quietly, without noise. Then comes eye contact that lingers just a second too long. Not seductive, not dramatic, but intentional. Their eyes don't rush away. There's curiosity there, recognition, almost like both are silently asking the same question: why does this feel familiar? Mutual attraction often reveals itself in pauses, small silences where neither feels uncomfortable. In psychology, comfort in silence is a sign of emotional alignment. When a man and an older woman can sit in that space without anxiety, something powerful is forming. Is Another undeniable sign is mirrored emotional investment. He listens more than he speaks. He remembers details about her life, her thoughts, her values, not because he's trying to impress her, but because his mind naturally prioritizes her. She, in return, doesn't dismiss his perspective because of age. She takes him seriously. She challenges him intellectually, not to dominate, but to engage. This mutual respect creates a bond that goes beyond physical attraction. It becomes mental intimacy. You'll also notice protective instincts emerging on both sides, but in different forms. He becomes subtly protective, checking if she's comfortable, noticing her mood shifts, adjusting his behavior without being asked. She becomes emotionally protective, encouraging his growth, grounding his impulsiveness, offering perspective instead of judgment. When attraction is mutual, both people invest in each other's emotional well being, not out of obligation, but instinct. Another major sign is time distortion. Conversations stretch longer than intended. What feels like minutes turns into hours. There's depth, not just banter. They talk about life, fears, regrets, ambitions. An older woman doesn't entertain surface level nonsense. So if she's engaged, it means the connection has substance. And if a man stays mentally present in those conversations instead of seeking stimulation elsewhere, that's attraction rooted in maturity, not novelty. Then there's physical awareness without overt sexuality. They become conscious of each other's presence, a slight shift closer, a pause before touching, not rushed, not careless. There's restraint, and restraint is one of the strongest indicators of real desire. When attraction is mutual, neither wants to cheapen it. The tension builds not from lack, but from respect. You'll also see emotional honesty appearing earlier than expected. He opens up about pressures, identity, purpose. She shares wisdom without preaching, vulnerability without oversharing. There's no power struggle, no need to dominate. Mutual attraction at this level doesn't feel like chasing, it feels like alignment. Another sign is defiance of external judgment. Both become less concerned about how others perceive the connection. Not reckless, not rebellious, but grounded. When attraction is mutual, approval becomes irrelevant. What matters is how they feel in each other's presence. The mind prioritizes emotional truth over social noise. And finally, the clearest sign of all, both grow calmer, stronger, and more self aware through the connection. Attraction that is mutual doesn't drain, it stabilizes, it doesn't confuse, it clarifies. A man feels more focused, more intentional. An older woman feels energized, appreciated, emotionally alive. This isn't about age, it's about resonance. So when you see a man and an older woman drawn to each other, understand this. What you're witnessing isn't imbalance, it's evolution. It's two people meeting at the same emotional frequency, regardless of the numbers attached to their lives. And real attraction, mutual, grounded, psychological, always reveals itself quietly, confidently, and without apology. There is also a very subtle but powerful shift in how they argue or disagree. When attraction is mutual, disagreements don't turn into ego battles. A man doesn't feel the urge to dominate or win. Instead, he becomes thoughtful, measured, almost careful with his words. An older woman doesn't dismiss him or shut him down. She listens, evaluates, and responds with clarity. This kind of dynamic only forms when both people value the connection more than their pride. Psychology tells us that we only regulate ourselves emotionally around people we don't want to lose. Another sign appears in the way humor flows. It's not loud or forced. It's intelligent, layered, sometimes dark, sometimes deeply observant. They laugh at the same things because they see the world in a similar way. Humor becomes a language of intimacy. When a man feels safe enough to be playful without being immature, and a woman feels free to laugh without feeling she has to act younger, attraction is already active beneath the surface. You'll also notice a shift in body language that most people miss. He turns his body toward her even when others are present. His attention doesn't scatter. She mirrors his posture unconsciously, leaning in, softening her shoulders, relaxing her guard. These are involuntary signals. The body always speaks before the mind admits anything. Another deep indicator is the absence of rush. There's no desperation to define the relationship, no pressure to label it quickly. Mutual attraction between a man and an older woman often unfolds slowly because both understand the weight of emotional decisions. He doesn't want to disappoint. She doesn't want to repeat past mistakes. So instead of impulsive moves, there's patience. And patience is not lack of desire, it's controlled desire. Then comes validation without dependency. He feels encouraged by her presence, not validated by her approval. She feels admired, not needed. This balance is rare. Most relationships collapse because one person needs while the other resents. Here, attraction exists without emotional hunger, and that makes it stronger. You may also notice a quiet exclusivity, even before anything is defined. They share certain thoughts only with each other, certain jokes, certain looks. It's not secrecy, it's intimacy. The mind naturally creates a private emotional space when attraction is mutual. Another sign is the way growth is invited, not demanded. She challenges him, but not by criticizing, by expecting more. He rises to that expectation because he wants to, not because he's being controlled. He inspires her to stay emotionally open, curious, and alive, not by chasing youth, but by offering sincerity. Attraction that is mutual always pulls both people upward. There is also a reduction in emotional games. No hot and cold behavior, no power plays, no intentional distance. When a man and an older woman are mutually attracted, manipulation feels unnecessary. The connection itself is enough. And perhaps the most revealing sign, both feel more like themselves around each other than with anyone else. No masks, no roles, just presence. In psychology, this is known as self-congruence, and it only happens when attraction is rooted in emotional alignment, not fantasy. This kind of attraction doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't seek validation. It doesn't follow trends. It simply exists, steady, undeniable, and deeply human. There is also a noticeable change in how they prioritize each other mentally, even when life is busy. He checks in without being reminded, not out of obligation, but because she naturally crosses his mind. She makes space for him emotionally, even if her life is already full. Mutual attraction doesn't demand attention, it earns it. When both people start adjusting their emotional bandwidth for each other, something real is already happening. Another strong sign appears in how advice is exchanged. An older woman doesn't lecture him, and a man doesn't resist her insight. He seeks her perspective not because he lacks direction, but because he values her clarity. She offers guidance without trying to control outcomes. This balance only forms when attraction is mixed with trust. Without attraction, advice feels intrusive. With attraction, it feels grounding. You'll also notice a shift in emotional maturity on his side. He becomes more reflective, less reactive. He starts questioning patterns, choices, and long term consequences. Not because she demands it, but because her presence activates a higher version of himself. Attraction that is mutual doesn't just pull people closer, it pulls them deeper into self awareness. At the same time, she softens without losing strength. She doesn't feel the need to overprotect herself or stay guarded. Her femininity becomes quieter, more confident, less performative. She doesn't try to impress him with youth or prove relevance. She simply is. And that authenticity is exactly what draws him in further. There's also a shared rhythm that develops. They begin to anticipate each other's reactions. He knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She knows when he needs encouragement and when he needs space. This attunement doesn't come from time alone. It comes from emotional resonance. Their nervous system starts syncing. Another sign is how conflicts end, not how they start. Even after tension, there is repair. Eye contact returns, tone softens, neither wants distance to linger. In psychology, the desire to repair is one of the strongest indicators of emotional attachment. And when it's mutual, both take responsibility instead of assigning blame. You may also see boundaries being respected effortlessly. He doesn't push where she's not ready. She doesn't test him unnecessarily. There's an unspoken understanding that trust grows when limits are honored. Attraction that is mutual never needs to cross boundaries to feel powerful. It becomes powerful because boundaries exist. Then there's the way future conversations begin to sound. Not planning, not promises, but hypotheticals. What do you think about? Have you ever imagined? These aren't commitments, they're invitations. The mind only imagines shared futures with people it feels emotionally safe with. Another subtle sign is reduced interest in superficial connections. He loses patience for shallow dynamics. She loses interest in emotional inconsistency. When attraction is mutual, standards rise naturally. Neither wants noise anymore, they want depth. And beneath all of this is a calm certainty, not obsession, not anxiety, just a quiet knowing that something meaningful is unfolding. Mutual attraction between a man and an older woman doesn't scream, it settles in. It stabilizes. It feels intentional, grounded, and emotionally intelligent. This is how real attraction reveals itself, not through age, labels, or social rules, but through behavior, energy, and emotional truth that can't be forced or faked. And this is where the truth becomes impossible to ignore. When attraction between a man and an older woman is real, it doesn't need explanation, permission, or public approval. It proves itself through emotional consistency, mutual respect, and the quiet transformation that happens in both people. This kind of connection isn't built on novelty or fantasy. It's built on awareness. It doesn't drain, confuse, or destabilize. It grounds, it sharpens, it matures. So stop asking whether it's right according to society and start asking whether it's healthy according to psychology. Because when two people meet at the same emotional depth, age becomes irrelevant. What matters is how they show up, how they regulate each other, and how they grow together. And any attraction that makes you calmer, clearer, and more aligned with your true self is not something to fear, it's something to respect.